Hi, welcome to Hitchhiking Stars and having a look at the transits for this week. So from Friday 13th, Friday 13th, until next week, we'll be having a look at the planets. And I want to know what's going on with you with Mars going direct. I mean, did you feel that? Did you notice anything? Did anything come up to you in your life for yourself? Do you have any planets at 8 degrees Gemini or 8 degrees around 8 degrees Virgo, Pisces, Sagittarius as well? So I happen to have a kind of a T-square in my chart that picks up roughly these like degrees. My curve is at 8 degrees Gemini in the 7th house. So it was very interesting actually. Didn't really have anything specific, particular happening, especially like in terms of my relationship or anything like that, which we would expect with Mars in the 7th house with Chiron. And that's why I keep telling you to get out of the box, like come outside of the box with your interpretations, because not everything that seems is how it happens in astrology. There's like we should leave a big room for experimentation and observation, really observing how these things play out in your life. So one thing that I've noticed for myself is that I wanted to voice things out a lot more, and that's the Gemini there, right? And the Chiron Gemini as well. So I became a lot more vocal about things, about irritations that I didn't think about for a very long time. So that was an interesting thing to observe and not get so carried away. And even politics. I mean, I became quite vocal about politics and spreading information, a petition for friends and things like that, which I don't usually do. I don't usually do that so often. I try to keep my work a little bit detached from political questions, at least for now. At least this is how I feel. So I want to avoid unnecessary conflict in the astrological work. So anyhow, this is kind of what happened to me. What's happened to you? I mean, I'm very curious to know what this Mars stationing to move direct represented or reflected of your life. Like, did you feel more restless? I actually had a little bit of insomnia as well. So it's very interesting. In fact, this whole idea of like coming outside the box with interpretations and observing it a little bit more is very interesting, because last week, on my video last week, I was talking about the full moon in Cancer, and I was saying how I wasn't really feeling that emotional, like things weren't really in that regard. I was just like organizing myself, and I had this urge to clear my space, to hear like witchy songs, and to really get into this sort of goddess feeling. That happened a lot for me on the last full moon in Cancer. But as the day after, I felt so emotional, and like the next 2 days during, because I think the full moon has a powerful energy for about 3 days. And so the following, 2 days, I felt very emotional. I mean, I cried even with MasterChef. I cried everything I was watching, all the interactions I was having. My partner made a joke, to me, and I cried. I mean, that's something that's not very usual. It was quite unusual for me to feel that way. And I do think that this has something to do with that powerful energy of that Cancerian full moon. So again, we sometimes think that things are going a certain way, and then a day goes by and we feel very different. So I think with astrology work, it's so important to really observe what's going on and to try to observe it without creating it necessarily, Anyhow, let's share the chart of the moment and have a look at what's going to happen this week. So again, reminding you to share with me what what you experienced with this Mars, because I'm very, very curious to know. It's a real relief, really, because it's been since October that Mars is being retrograde. So rethinking, revisiting, reassessing needs for assertion, needs for how we express anger, how we express, and old conflicts. Maybe we're coming back to you as well, like these days. So I'm very, very curious to see what you have to say. But finally, as a reflection of this movement, we're ready to move forward. We're ready to take a step forward with our things, to launch things, to put things forward, to move things forward, let's say. And what I'm pointing out here is that today there's going to be a grand trine. So there's going to be a grand trine in air signs. So the moon is in Libra, we've got Venus in Aquarius here as well, and Mars in Gemini. So with Mars moving direct as well. So that's a kind of an interesting one, and it's good for communication. So if there's anything about limits, boundaries, things that you wanted to communicate that you haven't communicated yet, today there's a grand trine. It's a great, although we still have Mercury retrograde, is a good time to do at least journaling and write it down, jot it down, have an awareness of what it is that needs to be communicated. It's also a wonderful aspect for sharing, for having a day, you know, sharing with your partner, having a good day, quality time with someone else as well. Yeah, anything that has to do with the air element, right? And that moon in Libra, they're ruled by that Venus as well, you know, they are kind of in a communication, they're in a dialogue. So that's an interesting aspect, a very harmonious, beautiful grand trine in air. Now for this week, what's interesting is that obviously we headed to Aquarius season almost, you know, I think this is the last week of Capricorn season. So get your projects going, think about your business, launch your new website, which is what I'm actually doing. Or anything else that you have to do, get your CV together, you know, your resume, whatever it is that you need to do in terms of your projects, your business is very, very highlighted in the Capricorn season. It's a time that we can accomplish a lot, that we can do a lot. Yeah, I think that's a particular powerful thing. The other thing that's going to be happening this week, you know, between Friday 13th today and next Friday, is Mercury going direct. So this is going to be happening on the 18th of January. So 18th, Mercury will be going direct at 8 degrees. Capricorn is in a trine with the North Node as well. So that's an interesting aspect, you know, it's like thinking practical ways of moving forward in our lives as well. That's one of the things that I think with this aspect, you know, North Node has to do with growth. You know, when we see South Node, a lot of astrologers talk about past lives and karmas and etc. And I like that interpretation a lot. But I also like to think in a Virgoan sort of practical sense that the South Node is our comfort zone. It's something that we know how to do, we've done, we've know, you know, it's like, actually, I've been reading this really, really interesting book, and I want to add that into my work as well. It's called A Great Leap. I can't remember what's his name now. I'll write in a comment. But he talks about zone of excellence, zone of competence, zone of excellence, zone of genius. I think the South Node is a zone of competence, you know, and at times as well, it might be like where we overdo things. We tend to overdo, we tend to be very attached to that South Node, to the ways of doing things in the South Node way. So that North Node really represents going beyond the comfort zone, going beyond the comfort zone. So that Mercury going direct in the trine to that North Node is an interesting aspect to think forward, to think about how to challenge ourselves to go beyond our comfort zones. And in practical sense, you know, is Earth. So how can we actually make this movement in a tangible way, in a practical way? So this is a great opportunity. That's next Wednesday, the 18th of January, to kind of brainstorm on like do a to-do list, you know, an achievable, practical to-do list. Another interesting thing that obviously catches my eye there is Sun conjoined Pluto. So Sun is conjoined Pluto on the day that Mercury is going direct. And it does, you know, wherever the Sun is, it sort of like shines a massive spotlight into that planetary principle, into a house in your chart or whatever it is. And so the Sun will definitely be shining the light there on that Pluto on the day of Mercury going direct. And it could be a lot of insights about survival, about, you know, compulsions, obsessions, you know, all the things that we know about Pluto as well, that the Sun will be definitely shining the light on. And especially if you're having a Pluto transit, this is a day to look out. Because it will make it very like obvious, whatever it is. You know, I think it acts a little bit like a full moon, apart from the fact that it might not be as emotional. But if you're having that Pluto transit to your moon, it will be emotional for you, you see, when the Sun transits Pluto. And that was something I observed very, very closely when I was having a Pluto transit to my moon, and the sun was activating that, and how that really activated the strong emotions, the challenges, the, you know, the whole process that Pluto transit to my moon was expressing. So it's really interesting to pay attention, especially if you're having a Pluto transit to anything personal planet wise. So to your moon, to your Venus, to your Mars, to your sun as well, to, you know, your Mercury to a certain extent as well. And really pay attention and brainstorm on these insights about getting out of the comfort zone, but very, very applied to this Plutonic process that you're going through as well. Venus will be coming to a conjunction to Saturn, but not just yet. And let me see if there's anything else interesting. So the day after Mercury goes direct is like the last official day of one of the last days of Capricorn season. Sees 29 degrees Capricorn there. And yeah, next Friday, the 20th of January, will be the entrance into the Aquarian season. So Aquarian season, we have shift, you know, whole shift of the solar sort of season from Capricorn to Aquarius. So as I said, take this week to make your business plans, get your CV, get your everything that you need together, you know, your LinkedIn updated, and, you know, do all of the Capricornian things to get ahead in your life. And also to take a ride with the planets going all direct, because soon enough that Uranus, which is the last one that's retrograde, will go direct as well in January. And we're going to have a massive wave of planets going direct together, which is great for moving forward, going ahead, you know, knowing where you need to go and just using this energy is a great time for that. And we'll also be heading to a new moon, but I will talk about that next Friday, because that's when it's going to be happening. So in the meantime, I wish you a wonderful, insightful Mercury going direct sort of week. And I'm very, very interested in knowing what this Mars going direct did to you. How did it feel to you? You know, I think planets changing emotions are so powerful. They're so powerful. We can definitely feel something in the air. We can definitely feel something in our lives as well, especially if you have Gemini. And whichever the house is at Mars in Gemini as well, that's where you're going to feel the most. So let me know. Write it down. I'm very, very curious. And in the meantime, I'm wishing you a wonderful weekend, a wonderful week as well. And I will see you all next week.